Hello Adelaide United fans, it is Jarrod here with a very special edition of The Pitch. I spoke about it last week and I'm pumped to have an opportunity to talk to a man who's not involved on the field but deals with everything off the field, the CEO of your Adelaide United, Glenn Elliott. Glenn, thank you very much for joining me on The Pitch.
Welcome Jarrod, I've avoided it for long enough, haven't I?
Yes, now you said I can ask basically any question I want today, and I've taken the opportunity to throw it out on Twitter and Facebook because, as you know, Adelaide United fans are prolific on social media, so we'll get to them really soon.
Well, our fans have been terrific, so I mean it's a wonderful opportunity for them to ask. And am I nervous? Yes, because I'm not sure what you're going to ask. Great,
wait till the end. If anyone's watched The Pitch before, you'll see what happens at the end. First question I wanted to ask you, as we are approaching halfway mark of the A-League season, how would you grade the side on the field? Because leading into the season we had a new coach, we had new players, we had new assistant coaches, and considering the events of how last season ended, there was a lot of unknown. And here we are now, the side on the field's looking okay, but I'd love your personal opinion as CEO.
Yeah, look, I think it's really important for the fans to understand too. I mean, for those who follow the game intensely, they'll have a thorough understanding of it. But if you hark back, we appointed a coach last July, Giuseppe, who was based in Hong Kong. So we appointed a coach in Joseph Gombauer, whom nobody knew. He arrived in Adelaide and inherited a list of 22 players whom he didn't know. No input onto the balance of the list. And we've since learned through Joseph, who's been astonishingly open and honest with the fans, that the list isn't balanced. And that's a cold, hard fact of life. So where are we going? We came from that sort of unknown. I mean, probably half the football fraternity were thinking we were on another planet. Another half were admiring us for having some courage to change. 15 games later or 16 games later, it's an unrealistic expectation to think that everything would be perfect. It's not. But here we are with 10 games to go in the A-League. We're in the six. So if we're good enough, we can still figure in the finals. I must say that in this code, it's interesting that in all other codes, cricket, Aussie rules, NRL, people are happy to transition. There's a thing called development. If you look at the AFL at the moment, there's probably out of the 18 clubs, 10 of them are in a development phase.
Yep.
But in the A-League, it's the opposite. Everybody's got to win every year. Now, we'd love to win this year. There's no question of that. But I think that Giuseppe's made no secret of the fact that it was going to take time, and we don't want to preach that. We'll be judged for what we do. But
one thing I wanted to ask you, just two quick questions about Giuseppe Gombauer, because we see the press conferences that he has. We saw the very first episode of The Pitch where he was interviewed, and we see a little bit of personality now. In my position, I'm fortunate to stand in the players' race to see the emotion that he has, where when Jake Barkadash, g'day Jake if you're watching, was going to take his penalty, and Giuseppe ran into the players' race, and when he came out and stood up for the side when there was a bit of controversy a few weeks ago. When I met with you at the start of the season just to talk about the club, you told me a couple of things about Giuseppe the man and his loyalty to football sides. And one was his loyalty to his side in Hong Kong, and that he couldn't say no to the opportunity here in Adelaide, but he was so loyal to them. But also when Michael Petrillo went over to see Giuseppe in Spain, how the players, such as Iniesta, like they respond to not just the coach, but the man that Giuseppe is.
I think Giuseppe brings honesty and integrity to a position. I've seen a lot of coaches over a lot of years, we all have. But honesty is a way of life to him. It's not an intimidating factor, and the players, every player that's on our list knows exactly where they stand. And I think you're right. I mean, short story with Giuseppe, when Kitchee won their couple of trophies, which they hadn't won for years and years and years, the owner actually gave him a new car. And when I saw Giuseppe in Hong Kong, just so that he knew someone else in Australia, bar Michael Petrillo, we're talking about the difficulty of moving from Barcelona to Hong Kong to here. And I said, what do you do with all the goods? And he said, oh, this had gone back. And I said, what about the car? It was a gift from the owner. And he said, no, I ring Mr. Ken and give him the keys and say, you sell the car and give the money back to the club. And I'm not so sure in Australia that would have happened.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So what he brings to it is honesty, absolute commitment to where he's going, He sees us all as part of his extended family. But importantly, I'd make this distinction too. There was a lot made of the fact we were going to play like Barcelona, we we're going to be tick-attack, we we're going to do all sorts of... The distinction is we've appointed a man of integrity who happens to have a Barcelona background. He'll play his style of football, obviously influenced by where he's been.
I wanted to ask you about the frustrations sometimes when it comes to looking after an A-League club, especially within the A-League. You have a look at this transfer window in January. The players who have left the A-League and the turnover is, I think it's at a record number this year, because ultimately the A-League is a breeding ground for bigger things. If we as a club here look after talent such as Matthew Leckie, initially Nathan Burns, Bruce Yute, and these young guys, once they get to a level, other clubs internationally make an offer to a club like Adelaide United.
Or in the A-League.
Yep. Well, which we can't refuse.
No.
And we need to let them go. Is that frustrating sometimes?
It's not why we're here, though. I mean, I think getting players that are lucky enough to go to the international scene is a consequence of doing well. I mean, our loyalty and the loyalty to our fans out there, the reason they join is that we're going to play entertaining, hopefully successful football at high mass week in, week out. If one of our players is lucky enough, good enough, it goes with both, there's a bit of being in the right place at the right time, well, that's terrific for the individual. But at the end of the day, we don't exist to sell players. We exist to play entertaining football here at Coopers, so that the fans, when they come through the gate, know that the side that's representing them will be around the money. Now, you mentioned the competitiveness of the A-League. It is incredibly difficult, and we've tried to put out to our fans exactly... We are in Adelaide. Other codes have faced similar problems. There's a massive disparity in the levels of income that clubs are spending, and I've got to be quite open with all the fans. If there was a 2-horse race or a 3-horse race for a particular marquee player and Melbourne Victory and Sydney were in it, we're going to run third. It's that simple, because they have more resources. Does that mean we can't win? No, it doesn't mean that. But what it does mean, the factor and the difference in Adelaide, and some of the differences about Adelaide and its history over its 10 years, has been the fans. Now, the fans have lifted what some of the pseudo-experts would say are just an average side on paper. They've lifted us beyond that. And I think I make that appeal to the fans here now. You are the difference. And quite brutally, if you look at the improvement and the efforts our fans have made at home games, and it's not only been your contribution that's helped home games, I've got to say that. You know, our fans are exemplary. Their vocal behaviour now is fantastic. And what our fans are being recognised for now are all the good things about support. Not with flares and language and everything else, about, you know, loyalty to the team. Players come and go, we understand that. But the people in the Red Army and the season ticket holders and everybody else who's been around, they've stuck by this club through thick and thin over 10 years.
2 more questions before we go to part 2. This will be in 2 parts. We'll have just me having a chat to Glenn, and then we'll go to some social media questions. Externally, everybody has their views, whether people are writing on blogs, on social media, writing for the newspaper about how the club is perceived. But I heard you on the radio recently talking about the average amount of people over the history of Adelaide United have been at the top. And also, I haven't seen the boys, and I'm lucky to know a lot of them personally, so tight as a group, and that was reflected when I spoke to a player who plays for another A-League club now, missing the brotherhood that's there, and that's something which Giuseppe has obviously brought in as well.
Yep.
Internally, you guys must be feeling quite positive that no matter what the situation is and what the pressures are, you still have a tight-knit family group which you will get results eventually.
Look, I think it's really important for us to understand we play a far greater role in the Adelaide community than just playing on match day. We have committed staff, and some of them are long-serving. They're fantastic, and you wouldn't trade them for anybody else. I don't think there's any... we wouldn't trade our fans. They're great. Our staff are terrific. You can't hide away from the challenges of running an A-League club in a tough financial market. Adelaide's not renowned for corporate sponsorship. We do sit behind, you know, that other oblong ball code in terms of... But we are who we are. We've got a massively proud history, and this town should be very, very proud of what it's achieved in a relatively short period of time. But yeah, look, we can't ask for more from our players. We can't ask for more from our staff. We can ask for more from corporate Adelaide.
That's a big shout out right there to corporate
sorry,
Adelaide.
I hope there's some corporate Adelaide supporters.
Okay, this is what I wanted to ask finally before we take a break, and then we'll go to part 2. And this is in relation to the Steve Lustica move.
Yep.
Now, I don't want to get too specific about
No, that's fair.
How I want to ask this question is, the club took a stand when Steve wanted to leave, or his representatives wanted to leave.
Yep.
It's fantastic that we now have Michael Moroney back here, so what's seen as a negative has turned into a positive. Do you think that was a representation of the fans, the people who believe in the club, and also the culture of this football club, to stand your ground and go, no, we're going to wait and see what happens and exhaust every avenue before we say to Stephen's representative or himself, we're going to let you do what you want?
Yeah, we don't want to get into a slanging match with either Brisbane and or Stephen Lustica or his agent. But certainly we're always going to do what's right for this club, and we won't move in any specific direction without trying to improve our ranks. We've been through some more difficult ones of recent years, of course. We went through the Marcus Flores one when it was nearly a media campaign against the club to why aren't you retaining him? There just comes a point in time in some player negotiations for either money or the player's ability or his relationship with a coach where sometimes it's better to move on. In this case, we've fully supporting our coach. I think it's unfortunate. It's very awkward for players. It's very awkward for the fans, and they're the ones I feel most for, because our commitment here is to be the best we can for 27 games of an A-League season, and hopefully play finals every year, because that's the broad goal of the club. I don't think there's a fan out there, but I'm only talking Adelaide fans here at the moment. They would get no joy from the fact that we got a great transfer fee. Now, if you wanted, and we won't go into player specifics, but if you wanted to look at one of our most promising young players, well, let's be hypothetical. If someone walked in the door tomorrow and said, oh, we want Awa Mabil to play wherever, the money is no compensation to the fans. The enjoyment of seeing Awa Mabil play out here is immeasurable. And I think that players, if I was trying to give players some advice, and I'm not a player agent, I'm not their accountant, but if you do sign on, hopefully you understand the implications of that. Now, we know it's a brutal game. And some of the things that happened here in our first couple of years, I don't think we're immeasurably proud of either, in terms of we don't want to go into past coaches, because they've all had every coach that's been at United has contributed in some way. They've all given their best at different times, but yeah, look, it's really awkward. I mean, if an player agent comes to you and says, look, I can get you double the money, or you can be playing in front of however many thousand in Brisbane, maybe players get tempted. But
ultimately, we have a team of people who want to be playing for Adelaide, in Adelaide, for the Adelaide fans, and the ones who don't, they don't survive.
The basic criteria of the club is if you don't want to be here, chances are you won't.
Yep. Fantastic. All right, so what we're going to do is wrap up part 1 of this with CEO of Adelaide United, Glenn Elliott. And then if you want to go to the next video, social media questions, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tinder, I think. Watch the next video.